What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year. It's actually the December 31st, 2017, but I'll probably upload this tomorrow. So, hope everybody has a nice, prosperous New Year for 2018. Anyway, today I am going to show you how to tie the sculpin that I tied a couple days ago and posted. A lot of people had some questions on it, so I figured why not? It's a pretty good time to do it. So, let's get going. In the vise here, by the way, I got a new vise. This is the Renzetti Saltwater Traveler, the blacked out edition from Fly Fish Food. It's actually pretty sweet. It holds all kinds of hooks. I like it. I'm coming from a Regal, so it's a little bit different, but I already got used to it after about 2 weeks, and it's really awesome. Anyway, in the vise, I have a Arex Hooks TP Trout Predator 650, size 2/0. Really awesome hook. I'm just using some UTC 140 in a brown olive color. Kind of start a little ways before the bend and bring your thread back. Or a little bit around the bend to about midway down between the hook and the barb. The point and the barb, I should say. Check out these scissors. America! They're from Deer Creek, by the way. Caster's Fly Shop. CastersOnlineFlyShop.com. Anyway, now what you're going to want is some Nature Spirit Prime Long Marabou. This is a dark olive color and a brown olive color. You want the prime because you're going to tie it in tips first. And it's better than just, plumes. So, tips first. Get rid of the excess tips. Bring your thread forward just a hair. Just get it out of the way. Grab both colors together and wrap just a few times. Okay, just like that. Reverse your thread and tie that off. Okay, now get your little comb and comb it all out. Cool. Doesn't really matter at this point. Tie over the ends till you come about to the point of the hook, and that's what you're left with. Okay. Now we're going to weight this streamer so it rides like this. It is on a jig hook, so you don't really need to do this, but since it is a sculpin, a bottom dwelling fish type creature, we're going to counterweight this. But first, cheers. So, for counterweighting, I really like the belly scratcher idea that Cheech has come up with at Fly Fish Food. I am using braided fishing line instead of what they use is just their articulation wire or just a regular wire. I like using a braided fishing line for two reasons. First reason being it won't ever corrode and rot away, and two, it's a lot more flexible. It doesn't build up nearly as much on the bottom as a wire would. You go back and forth stacking a lot. So that's pretty much the only reason I like using it better. But anyway, that's a tungsten bead. It's a 4.8 millimeter. That's all I'm using on this one. I don't want to weight it a ton, still make it castable. And that's really all you need anyway. You could use smaller beads and just multiply, times 2 or 3. Just weight it for your waters. You don't really have to follow this exact. So, and tie that off and cut away that. Now is when you'd want to drop some super glue on there, but for the purposes of the video, I'm just not going to do that. Now you're going to need some polar chenille. This is a brown olive color. And tie that in right behind the bead. And work your way forward. I drop a little half hitch in just because. Now I know this is a rotary vise, but I'm just not going to do that. It just kind of makes a mess. It just doesn't have to be super neat. The reason I put the bead on before is just this gives it more security. You're obviously wrapping material around the braid, so it's more times it's attaching itself to the hook. That's the only reason I do this first. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, now flip your hook upside down. Now what you're working with is basically just a woolly booger that's upside down with some sparkles in it. Now you're going to need a craft fur zonker strip, like right there. I've already tapered the end and everything. If you don't know how to make these, look back in my feed a couple months ago. I made a video on how I make these. I like these a lot because, well, craft fur is already self-tapering, but you don't have to do any work and it makes it look good. That's really the reason I like it. So anyway, go ahead and measure out what you need. Being as this fibers are super long anyway, much longer than a rabbit zonker, you don't really need too much of this skin hanging out the back. So I just kind of poke a hole, probably about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch back, and just like that. Put it back in, flip it back over. Now I'll go ahead and separate some of the marabou and the polar chenille out of the way. Fold that over, just like this. And cut it around the hook, just like that. Okay. And now tie it off. Be forewarned that this does want to spin on you. So do a couple loose wraps and cinch it tight. Couple loose wraps, cinch it tight. Pull it behind you, catch the hook tightly, and do it again. Okay, now don't use good scissors for this. I use Dr. Slick's synthetic scissors. I've had this since I've really started tying. They've been really good. So I definitely recommend those. And go ahead and cut as much as you can off. It's okay if you have some bulk on there. It will help you in the long run anyway, because sculpins have huge heads on them. So go ahead and clean that up a little bit. Alright, and that's kind of what you're working with. It's definitely fishable right now, even though it's kind of ugly, but we're not quite done yet. Now we have that step taken care of. Let's put some fins on it. I use mallard flank feathers for fins, because in the package, you get large ones, you get medium ones, and I'm always stuck with the small ones left over and never really have anything good to do with them. this is a good way to use the small ones. Um, Basically, put the concave side facing out, so it's like a little fin, obviously. These have already been pre-measured, and you cut the little fluff off at the end and just peel it off anyway. Do the same thing on this side, and that looks like a little fin sticking out. You can put resin on these to make it more durable, but of course you're going to take away from the action, so I just kind of leave it alone. Alright, and now for probably one of the most important parts of this fly is the head. It's pretty simple so far, and the head's even fairly easy too. So for that I use a bruiser blend from Flyfish Food. This color is actually, I hand blended about 4 different colors of bruiser blend together. It's like a brown olive, a barf brown, Sasquatch brown, I think there's a black and blue in there, and some alpha wolf together. Fish are not one color, so if you blend all of them together, it looks better. Anyway, go ahead and put the clump pretty much halfway on top of that big thread ball, and take a thread wrap or two right on top, flip it over, and we're going to do the same exact thing on the bottom. Halfway, 1, 2, cinch it down, fan out the end pointing out, and fold it back, and catch in front of it. Fold it back over and do the same thing. Fan it out, brush it back, and catch in front of it. It's a little bit finicky because of the fins, but it's not that difficult. Alright, now you're going to want to build up more in front of the head that we're actually just going to trim away in the end anyway. So what I like to do here is one more clump on top, catch the shank of the hook, 2 wraps, flip it back over, 1 more clump on the bottom, 1, 2 wraps, and then 1 clump on each side. Okay, just like that. Now this looks absolutely ridiculous, but don't worry, it'll get a lot better soon. You're really just going to trim all this off anyway. So go ahead and pull down tight, wiggle your thread through the head, and catch the hook shank, just like this. And tie it off. Okay. Remove your thread. Now it's easier to trim this if you take a little mustache comb like this and pull the hair about 90 degrees from the shank of the hook. I like to take the first stack, leave half of it back, and move half of it 90 degrees from the hook shank, if that makes sense. Oops. Okay. Now we just start trimming the shape. Definitely recommend your Dr. Slick synthetic scissors again, or just any more inexpensive scissors. You don't want to use your good scissors for this stuff. And now just kind of think of what a sculpin looks like in the back of your mind while you do this. They kind of have a flat head but wide, so you want to keep that while you're trimming, so you have an end result in mind and you just achieve the end result. So once you have the top done, kind of roll it over and The bottoms are the easiest part to trim. It's just completely flat. We really just use it to cover up the belly of the fly, give it a little bit more color. So now we're getting somewhere. Now the sides are gonna brush that out, and we're gonna trim all this. Remember they're wide, so don't cut too much away. And you could really go overboard doing this. So be careful, take a little bit off at a time, and eventually you'll get exactly what you're looking for. Okay, now that that's done, we can start finishing the fly. First, I like to flip it over and make sure the belly is nice and secure. Take some UV resin. This is Deer Creek Flex. I like to just kind of saturate the bottom of the fly all the way around. This is going to do a couple things. It's going to hold its shape. It's going to make it a little bit more durable. And believe it or not, resin adds some weight to the fly, so it's also going to help counterweight the head, so it'll sit properly in water. So go ahead and get the shape you want, and before you zap it, make sure it's what you want, because you can't fix it once it's done. Alright, now for the eyes, what you want to do is figure out exactly where you want them. Still not done trimming. I told you it could get really crazy. You just gotta tell yourself you're done. Figure out where you want them and take some more resin again. Start off slow, just do like one drop at a time. Kind of saturate the little area you want and cure it. See, it's barely even noticeable right now, and that's okay. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Alright, now that the spots are done, take some builder or your favorite thick resin and build that up. If you rotate the vise like this, it'll keep them nice and round for you. Okay. Technically, you're supposed to cure these for like 15 to 16 seconds, but I'm not going to do that. Now we get to color our eyes. I just use a chart pack marker. This is a Delta brown color. So the resin is going to take the color of the bruiser blend underneath, but this actually just makes it a little bit darker tint, which makes them a little bit, more noticeable, if you will. Okay, now let that dry. While we have these markers out, I like to just go ahead and put some random spots all over, the bruiser blend and the craft fur and the marabou, just kind of like a model color. Because once again, there's no fish or sculpin or anything that has one color. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of olive while we're at it. Some different colors going on. Okay. Now to finish it off, once the marker's kind of dried, just put a little drop of flex right on top of that to basically set the color and build it up. All right. go. That's it. A little craft for Zonker Sculpin. Couldn't think of a word. Anyway, go ahead and toss them up, fish them, and let me know how you do. Good luck, and cheers to a Happy New Year.